Champ down.
Yes, I didn't see him. What are you looking so sad about, Champ?
I'm surprised. I mean, I'm really insulted. That's not right, what you just said.
What do you mean, what I just said?
I mean, I'm getting a drink of water. I'm late getting home, but you talk. I said something about the greatest heavyweight champ, man. I'm a hometown man, and you talk about Joe Louis, man. Joe Louis wouldn't be nothing for me. Joe, I tell you, Joe, do you think you would have stood a chance with me?
Well, Clay, one time in my career, I won a Formula One tour.
I would have been a bum compared to you.
What's happening, my people? It's Cass Sports again, back for another afternoon with the family. That's right. You know what time it is. If it's Monday through Friday, 2 p.m., it's the Box Story, bringing you all that boxing history. Boxing is the greatest sport of them all. That's why we love it. Can't get enough of it. Salute to Miss Cass, because without her, none of this would be possible. Salute to everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cass Sports, the Box Story. Today, Classic Fights. Classic Fights has a family today. It's Thursday, deep into this big week of boxing history now. Yeah, we're going to talk about some classic fights today. We're going to talk about one fight, at least one fight from every decade of the past century, 1920s to 2020s. A couple of decades, we got a couple of them. Some of these are past fights of the day, but they're worth covering again. Okay, from the 1920s, we got Harry Grant versus Mickey Walker. From the 30s, Joe Louis versus Primo Carnera. 40s, Ike Williams versus Bo Jack. From the 50s, Sonny Liston versus Cleveland Williams. And Floyd Patterson versus Archie Moore. From the 1960s, Muhammad Ali versus Ernie Terrell. Joe Frazier versus Jerry Quarry. From the 70s, we had Big George Foreman versus Ron Lyle. Also, Big Ron Lyle. Those were two big power punchers. And then what a slugfest they had. We're going to talk about it today. In the 80s, Marvelous Marvin Hagler versus John the Beast Mugabe. And Roberto Duran versus Iran Barkley. From the 90s, James Lights Out Tony versus Michael Second to None. 2000s, Oscar De La Hoya versus Manny Pacquiao. From the 2010s, Lennox Lewis versus Vitaly Klitschko. And 2020s, Terrence Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez. All that today on Cast Sports The Box Story, and bringing you all that boxing history. Big show today. Don't forget tomorrow, we got a special. Remember, Sunday, March 8th, is the 55th anniversary of the fight of the century, March 8th, 1971. The challenge of Muhammad Ali versus the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, Smoking Joe Frazier. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. All things about the fight of the century, including a round by round talk about the fight. So that's tomorrow. Don't miss it. Gas Sports Special, the fight of the century. Because again, Sunday, March 8th, is the 55th year anniversary of it. Joe Frazier versus Muhammad Ali. All right. Well, how's everybody today? Yeah, we're going to today have really going to be like 10 fights of the day, because we're going to look at some classic fights. Okay. And we're going to have our official fight of the day too, coming up in moments. Then we got a fight from every decade for the past century. Classic fights. All involving legends of the sport of boxing today. But how's everybody this Thursday afternoon? Beautiful outside. Out there in a hoodie today. It's March. Springtime is on the way. Okay, but now, without further ado, let's get in to our fight of the day. Get this thing rolling. There we go. Fight of the day. Okay. Today's fight of the day is Oscar De La Hoya versus Shane Mosley. June 17th, 2000. A super fight that delivered. A super fight that delivered. Oscar and Sugar Shane. 26 years ago. Let's talk about it. Excuse me. The two men stood glaring at each other from across the ring in their corners. Celebrities surrounded them like vultures, ready to scatter away from whoever lost that night to whoever won. Whether they were there to be seen or due to seeing didn't really matter. They were celebrities, and they were there because this was the place to be on that night. This was the fight of a generation. Two great fighters who were finally going to meet in the middle of the ring to decide who was the better man. Nothing is bigger than a super fight in boxing. Nothing. Millions of people from around the world huddled around their television sets that night, excuse me, in restless anticipation of witnessing what was about to happen. The referee delivered the final instructions to the fighters while they stood staring at each other in the middle of the ring. The time was here. Were they wondering to themselves how the next 36 minutes of fighting would go? The two were separated for one final time. They nervously bounced around in their corners and paced back and forth in eagerness for the coming battle. The moment had finally arrived. The bell rang, and the two men headed toward their destinies. But Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Manny Pacquiao did little else on the evening other than lining their own pocketbooks with millions of dollars they didn't even really need at this point in their careers. The fight itself was dull. It was a high-speed game of tag, and after the contest was over, all there was left to do was a bunch of counting. The judges counted up their scores for the fight. Mayweather won a unanimous decision. The Compo Box people counted up the number of times each fighter dared to throw a power punch. Too few of them, to say the least. And Mayweather and Pacquiao counted up all the dollars they pocketed by bilking over 4 million souls out of their hard-earned money for something that was supposed to be the fight of the century. It wasn't. Mayweather-Pacquiao wasn't even the fight of that year, much less the century. What a shame. But June 17th, 2000 was a super fight that did live up to expectations. Oscar De La Hoya met Sugar Shane Mosley at the Staples Center on that date, June 17th, 2000. The fight wasn't just a historically important fight between two of the era's best fighters. It was, as described by Sports Illustrated Richard Hoffer, a stirring bout that ennobled both fighters, one which defined that generation's standard bearer for pugilism. De La Hoya Mosley didn't just live up to the tremendous amount of hype a super fight generates, it exceeded it. A long time in the making. The first time De La Hoya and Mosley fought each other, they were only children. De La Hoya was 11 and Mosley was 12. Stood in the center of the ring and threw punches at each other as hard as 75-pound middle school kids can throw them. The two fought as many as 60 rounds against each other as amateurs over their stalwart careers in the USA boxing system. De La Hoya won 2 national titles, along with a gold medal at the 1992 Summer Olympic Games in Barcelona, Spain. Mosley was a 3-time national champion and a thorn in De La Hoya's side, handing East Los Angeles' best amateur 2 of his 5 total losses at the amateur level. But Mosley missed out on the Olympics after Vernon Forrest knocked him out of the Olympic trials. So while the two were similar stars before 1992, De La Hoya took over as the lead fighter after his excellent performance in the Olympics. The two California kids, East LA's De La Hoya and Pomona's Mosley, were perhaps destined to have intertwining careers. They were boxing's best and brightest stars in the late 1990s and early 2000s. They met as professionals, both fighting at their peaks, 16 years after their first encounter as adolescents. De La Hoya was age 27, Mosley was 28. Dubbed Destiny by the fight's promoters, De La Hoya Mosley was the perfect super fight. It came along at the exact right time in both men's careers. There was no 6 years of waiting for these two to square off against each other. It was simply a bout between two outstanding professionals at their best. Two men willing to challenge themselves against the very best competition of their time. Each man giving it his all for 12 passionate rounds. Unlike Mayweather-Pacquiao, as well as a host of other letdowns throughout the sport's long history, De La Hoya Mosley delivered the goods where it mattered most, inside the ring on fight night. Okay, the fight. The fight. HBO commentator Larry Merchant perfectly set the stage before the first bell rang. Who will dare to be great? He asked the audience before the two collided center stage. And by the end of things, we had been given our answer. Both of them daring to be great, Merchant exclaimed in jubilation at the end of festivities. Mosley defeated De La Hoya that night by a narrow but well-earned split decision to win De La Hoya's WBC welterweight title. Two judges at ringside scored the fight for Mosley, 116-112 and 115-113, while the third had De La Hoya, the winner, at 115-113. HBO's unofficial ringside scorer, Harold Letterman, saw a Mosley win at 116-112. Mosley considers it his best performance of his career. Mike Rim is in the building. Salute, Mike. Fight of the day is Oscar De La Hoya versus Shane Mosley. And we are going to look at a fight from every decade from the 1920s to the 2020s. Every decade of the past century. So we're going to have like 10 fights of the day today. Let's salute Mike. Now, Mosley said this was the best performance of his career. It was the biggest fight of my career and probably my best win, Mosley told Bleacher Report after the fight. Both guys were at the top of their games, myself and Oscar, and I did a number on him. I was happy. Mosley put his stamp on the early rounds with fast hands and faster feet. He set the tone for the fight by being first and last to swing when the two engaged, which was often, and he used his incredible speed to offset De La Hoya's excellent timing. But by the middle rounds, De La Hoya's faint left hook was starting to make its mark. While both fighters were a similar size as amateurs, De La Hoya had tarried longer as a professional welterweight when the two met in 2000, the longtime lightweight champion Mosley. Perhaps this was the reason De La Hoya so desperately tried to press the action, even when Mosley remained undeterred. I wasn't intimidated by his size or anything because I knew I was pretty much the same size as he was. He just had moved up the ranks faster than me and had the notoriety of winning the gold medal. Sugar Shane said. Mosley said the key to the fight was something he discovered very early in the fight during a clinch. In the beginning, I hit him a few times, and when we clinched, I felt that I was a lot stronger than him. I was surprised I was that much stronger than him. I kind of lifted him up and walked him around a little bit. I felt his strength then, and I felt that I was faster and also stronger as well. Adversity struck mid-fight, and Mosley said his back started to tighten up on him. So not only did the undefeated former lightweight have to contend with a vicious punching welterweight who had begun to make his mark on Mosley's chin and body, but he had to do it while fighting through a stiff back. The result was a slower Mosley, one easier for De La Hoya to land hooks and jabs upon. The momentum has swung back to De La Hoya. The momentum has swung back to De La Hoya at this point. Ultimately, Mosley said the fight was won on guts and determination. I wanted it more from the beginning. I started out pretty fast. I believed I was faster than him. At least my feet were a lot faster. His hand speed is pretty quick as well. So we both had about the same hand speed, but I felt like my punching speed was a lot faster than him. Mosley won the championship rounds 10 through 12, with what he termed punching speed, or flurries of volume punching to make certain the judges saw things going his way. But make no mistake about these flurries. Both men that night were not merely trying to hit for singles and doubles, the way Mayweather and Pacquiao seemed to do for all 12 rounds of their fight against each other in May. De La Hoya and Mosley were swinging for the fences. May of 2015, Mayweather and Pacquiao. De La Hoya and Mosley were swinging for the fences, though. They weren't in that pity pat like Mayweather and Pacquiao was. The fight was as close as the final punch stats suggest. Mosley had the overall edge in the fight, landing 284 of 678 punches thrown, as opposed to De La Hoya's 257 of 718 total. Moreover, Mosley landed 174 of 304 thrown power punches, a 57% success rate. De La Hoya landed 165 power punches of his own, but at only a 37% success rate. It was a slugfest, De La Hoya said after the fight. Fun for everybody. Now the aftermath of the fight. The loss affected De La Hoya greatly. After losing on the cards to Felix Trinidad a year earlier, in a fight many believe, including the sweet scientist Frank Lotieres, that Oscar should have won. The close loss to Mosley had the Golden Boy considering retirement for a time. In fact, De La Hoya didn't even fight again until the next year. But De La Hoya rebounded to become one of the most successful, if not spectacular, prize fighters in history. He went on to defeat the likes of Arturo Gatti, Fernando Vargas, and Ricardo Mayorga. He became one of the richest and most successful fighters of all time. There's him and Fernando right there. Moreover, he continually challenged himself in his fighting career to face the very best, facing Mosley again in 2003, vying for the middleweight title against Bernard Hopkins in 2004, and ultimately facing next generation superstars Mayweather and Pacquiao in 2007 and 2008. Mosley endured a similar fate. He defeated De La Hoya in a rematch, but wasn't nearly as brilliant as he was in the first fight. Many observers believe the fight should have gone to De La Hoya, and the event was later tainted by Mosley's admitted use of EPO for a short time before the fight, a banned substance. But Mosley challenged himself as a fighter too. He lost twice to Vernon Forrest at welterweight in 2002. He was a tall, 6-foot, lanky fighter who just seemed to have Mosley's number. And he lost twice to junior middleweight champion Winky Wright 2 years later. In the setbacks, though, Mosley displayed probably his best characteristic as a fighter. Neither Forrest nor Wright were men the small as Mosley messed up all that well against, but he didn't care. He took the fights anyway, and when he lost them, he took immediate rematches to try again. Mosley was as resilient as they come, and the only reason we know that about him is because, like De La Hoya, he pushed himself to his limits. Mosley defeated the likes of Vargas, Mayorga, and Antonio Margarito for late career glory. He suffered losses to Mayweather and Pacquiao, the same as De La Hoya, along with late career losses, fighting well above his natural weight to Canelo Alvarez and Anthony Mundine. Both men are currently retired from boxing. Though as is the case with most prize fighters, both have at times seemed interested in returning to the ring after their careers had ended. De La Hoya is the founder and president of Golden Boy Promotions, one of the industry leaders in boxing. Mosley currently trains his son Shane Mosley Jr., along with several other fighters, and his various other business interests outside of the sport. But after watching Mayweather Pacquiao and watching De La Hoya Mosley, one has to wonder how this generation's greatest welterweights, Mayweather and Pacquiao, how the next generation's greatest welterweights, after Oscar and Shane, Mayweather and Pacquiao, would have fared against the prime versions of De La Hoya and Mosley. Mosley won this too. But such must be the fate of all fighters who suffer losses to other great champions after their best years have come and gone. There's simply no way to come to a definitive conclusion on the matter. Simply no way. Regardless, there's no mistaking which of the pair put on the better super fight. De La Hoya Mosley was everything a super fight should be. It was an action-packed slugfest between two highly skilled fighters trying to knock each other out. Mayweather Pacquiao was nothing of the sort. The difference is that fighters of my era fought with heart. We fought with a lot of skill, but also a lot of heart. These fighters fight for points. They want to score points and win the fight on points. They run around the ring, hold and do all these different things because they aren't trying to knock people out. I mean, when Muhammad Ali was fighting, he was running around the ring, but he was actually trying to knock the guy out in whatever round he called. Sugar Shane Mosley. De La Hoya and Mosley, arguably, their generation's two biggest stars, but trying to knock each other out in every round of the fight. So why weren't Mayweather and Pacquiao? We were warriors, man. They are not warriors. I don't know. There's just a difference in the eras. Before we fought with heart and determination, and now they're fighting with, I don't know what they're fighting with. Sugar Shane talking again. Whatever it is, it doesn't seem quite the same stuff De La Hoya and Mosley fought each other with. Whatever it is, boxing would be much better off getting back to that. Fight of the day, Sugar Shane Mosley and Oscar De La Hoya. Okay, so classic fights today. We're gonna look at a number of different fights throughout the show. Some of them are past fights of the day, but they're worth covering again because they're all classics involving legends of the sport of boxing. And the first one is Harry Greb versus Mickey Walker. Okay. Harry Greb versus Mickey Walker, July 2nd, 1925. 2 fights for the price of 1. 2 fights for the price of 1. Wow. All right, let's get into it. Greb Walker is first. And there they are. Okay. Now, how truly special the sport of boxing was back in the roaring 20s. A time when, without hesitation, without any slick demands, the 2 best in the world regularly fought one another. Why? To show, to prove, to themselves mostly, who really was the best. Case in point, the absolute epic that took place at a swiftly sold-out polo grounds in New York between complete and utter legend, Harry Greb and Mickey Walker. It's such a majestically mind-boggling battle of greats, of tough guys, of men literally willing to die in the ring in the search of victory, took place today. We fans would gladly, proudly part with large sums of money to watch the war live in the comfort of our armchairs. And we'd have paid such money without flinching. The term born tough, or as boxing historian Mike Tyson might say, authentically tough men, is the only adequate description one can use when talking about Greb, who finished with a truly incomprehensible 261 wins, 17 losses, 19 draws, 48 knockout record. This compiled by the occasion of his untimely death at age 32, okay? Age 32. The man had $297 fights by the time he was 32, okay? And Walker, who exited with a little less frightening, but still bewildering, 131 wins, 25 losses, 2 draws, 60 knockout record. That's 158 fights for Mickey Walker, the toy bulldog. And the fact that they fought each other with neither hesitation nor the need for coercion on the part of either born fighter makes their brutal and unforgettable 15-round dust-up all the more special, all the more magical. Greb at the time, the world middleweight king, at a time when everyone actually knew who the champ was in each division, met Walker, who was the reigning welterweight king. By this stage in his 12-year pro career, Greb had engaged in no less than 5 torrid fights with light heavyweight and future heavyweight champion Gene Tunney. Walker had won the welterweight crown, and he had defended it numerous times, but the Toy Bulldog won the middleweight title. What followed was brutal, savage, sensational, and a whole lot more. Walker attacked the body in the early going, with Greb pacing himself. The battle of attrition was on, and those fans who were lucky enough to have been in attendance settled in for a classic. It was a close fight all the way, until Greb poured it on in the championship rounds. Here, legendary writer Damon Runyon describes the end of the showdown. One tremendous splurge of wild fighting in the 14th round, during which he had Mickey Walker tipsy and teetering from his smashing punches, probably saved the title of middleweight champion for Harry Greb, the Pittsburgh Windmill, tonight. Walker made a determined attack on the Windmill's body, round after round, and frequently hurt him with left hooks to the stomach and under the heart. Greb took a lead in the early rounds, loafed a bit, and had been lagging along a bit behind up to the 14th when he suddenly clipped Walker on the chin with a swinging right hand that dazed the Fighting Irishman from New Jersey. Walker backed into his own corner as Greb emptied every punch in his locker on him. Walker outfought Greb in the 15th of last round, but Greb had offset anything Walker might now do. There was little demonstration as Joe Murphy, the veteran announcer, raised Greb's soaking glove. But there was more to come, and a legend was born. According to varying reports of the time, Greb and Walker later ran into each other quite by chance at a nightclub near the arena where the fight took place. Both men were partial to a good, well-earned drink after a fight, or even just before a fight, if some stories are to be believed. And hours after the exhausting rumble at the arena, the two still had energy to burn. Some reports say the two slugged it out in an unplanned rematch in the nightclub's parking lot, with Greb winning again. Yet other reports, perhaps fanciful, say Walker cracked Greb with a sucker shot and knocked him out cold. Whatever the case, both men enjoy a special place in boxing history today. Greb and Walker were unimaginably hard men. And though we still love the watered-down version of the sport we have today, it is men like these two who make us look back with wonder on how untouchable the sport of boxing once was. Greb died in October of 1926, suffering heart failure while undergoing surgery on his nose. Walker lived in the old age, passing away at age 79 in 1981. Okay? Classic fights today. Next, we go to the 1930s for our next classic fight. Got a fight from every decade from the past century, 1920s to 2020. Okay, next one is Joe Louis versus Primo Carnera, January 25th, 1935. The Brown Bombers, first big splash. The Brown Bombers, first big splash. Joe Louis versus Primo Carnera. Okay, let's talk about that one. All right. Lewis versus Carnera. And again, this was June 25th, 1935. This was Joe Louis's first big splash, his first big fight of his career against a known opponent. Carnera was a former world champion at that point, and Joe Louis fought it. After Jim Braddock demystified the frightening power of Max Baer on June 13th, 1935, it drove the heavyweight division into an unexpected state of flux. Braddock's inspired 15-round upset decision over the long-armed 6'4" Baer lifted the crown and also created a sense of anticipation that hadn't existed before. Prior to the upset by Braddock, the general thought was that the destructive Baer would reign as champion for many years to come. Baer was seen as head and shoulders above the rest of the contenders and pretenders. Braddock's shocking victory changed people's perspectives. An article in the Chicago Tribune dated June 20th, a week after Braddock's triumph, includes the name of Joe Louis in a short list of legitimate contenders for Braddock's crown. The others on the list were all former champions: Baer, Max Schmeling, and Primo Carnera. This was just a week before Louis and Carnera were scheduled to meet at Yankee Stadium in what would be Louis's New York debut. Louis was still very young, but he had a reputation. He had been the Golden Gloves champion of 1934 and had set aside every opponent in his path as a professional, mostly by knockout. As the unnamed writer of the article in the Tribune goes on to say, Joe, who has been termed the Brown Bomber, is a newcomer to the top. Out of the amateur ranks, only a year. 18 knockouts out of 22 opponents show a punch, and punches are what fight crowds like. They are what earned him this chance against Carnera. Now, from the time that Louis, the knockout sensation from the Midwest, was made with ex-champ Carnera, the public interest was huge, and the interest only intensified after Braddock's shocking victory over Baer. A crowd of 80,000 was expected at Yankee Stadium, including tens of thousands of Black Americans from Harlem, to see how the young Joe Louis would fare against the much more experienced and much bigger Carnera. In the same June 20th issue of the Tribune, there was a report from Carnera's training headquarters in Owasco Lake, New York. A superbly conditioned Carnera, the report said, went through 8 tough rounds of sparring without breathing hard. Unfortunately, one of Carnera's sparring partners was a decent heavyweight from Washington named Nady Brown, who went 10 hard rounds with Louis on March 29th at Detroit's old Olympia Stadium. Brown was much quicker than Carnera and slapped the former champion around, according to the Tribune article. Brown caused consternation to Carnera's handlers by the ease with which he pounded the huge Italian. Carnera himself was undisturbed, however. When interviewed by the Tribune's famed sports writer Wilfred Smith just 2 days before the fight with Louis, Carnera expressed supreme confidence. Carnera was sitting at a bar adjacent to the roller skating rink and gurgling a bottle of ale at the resort in Owasco Lake, where he was training when Smith interviewed him. This Louis, he's a kid, Primo said with a wide toothy smile in his own brand of broken English. Who has he fought? Knock out the Preem? I push it in feats like this. 15 rounds I push, 20 if permitted, and no tired. Then I knock him out. Of course, as the history books tell us, and the ring records verify, things did not go quite as the Preem planned on the night of June 25th, 1935 at Yankee Stadium. Lewis was every bit as lethal as advertised and was simply too skilled and too fast for the muscular but awkward Cornera. Lewis discovered early in the fight that he would not be able to effectively reach the taller Cornera's head with blows until he had invested in a body attack. Cornera, who came into the ring with an 83-7 record and weighing 260 pounds, 65 pounds more than Joe Louis's 195, had only one weapon that caused Lewis any difficulty at all. Cornera's jab didn't hurt Joe, but kept him off stride at times as Lewis stalked the bigger man. The way he kept coming back with that jabbing left hand puzzled me, so I didn't feel sure when I would knock him out, Lewis told reporters after the fight. According to the ringside report of Harvey Woodruff, Lewis used a two-fisted body attack in the second, third, and fourth rounds to systematically lower Cornera's guard and set up the former champion for a fresh assault to the head in the fifth and sixth rounds. Primo, feeling these short blows of tremendous power from either hand, was instinctively and unknowingly lowering his guard more and more. In the fifth and sixth rounds, Lewis raised his blows. He not only hooked, but he put body leverage behind his punches. The result was inevitable. Even to a man of Cornera's recuperative power and gameness, it was a humane act when referee Arthur Donovan stopped the fight. Along the way, Lewis knocked Cornera down 3 times in the 6th round. Cornera was clinging to the ropes and bleeding heavily from the mouth when Donovan stepped in at the 2:32 mark. Immediately after the fight, promoter Mike Jacobs announced that Lewis would face still another former champion, Max Baer, in the fall at one of the New York ballparks. For Lewis, the fight with Baer would be another big step on the path that would eventually lead to a title shot against Braddock in June of 1937. A stunning defeat at the hands of Max Schmeling in June of 1936 at Yankee Stadium temporarily derailed the championship express of the Brown Bomber. Lewis would eventually turn the tables, however. Lewis was always better the second time around, just like Muhammad Ali, undefeated in rematches. Okay? Joe Louis, the Brown Bomber. Okay? We're looking at a fight from every decade from 1920 to 2020, the past century today. Okay? Let's move on to the 1940s now. 1940s. Okay? Ike Williams versus Bojack, July 12th, 1948. A criminally late stoppage. A criminally late stoppage. Williams versus Bojack. Not Bo Mac, Bojack. Okay, let's talk about this one. Classic fights today. Ike Williams versus Bojack. Let's see. There's Ike and Bojack. Bojack on the left, Ike on the right. Yeah, this was a criminally late stoppage. Mike Mazik is in the building. Salute, Mike. We're just looking at some classic fights today. Got a classic fight from every decade from the 1920s to the 2020s, the past century, up to the 40s. Ike Williams versus Bojack. Again, July 12th, 1948. A criminally late stoppage in this one. Okay, salute, Mike. Rewind to July 12th of 1948 and fight fans witness two all-time greats going at it for the world lightweight title. These same fans also saw the first fight in a brutal series, while at the same time, the world of boxing perhaps saw the most criminal, the most sickeningly late stoppage call ever performed by a referee. Ike Williams was 25 years old with a record of 94 wins, 10 losses, 4 draws, 35 knockouts in his 108-fight career to that point. He was the reigning lightweight champion. The man from Brunswick, Georgia, had beaten such great and fine fighters as Sammy Engat, Johnny Bratton, Tippy Larkin, Bob Montgomery, and Kid Gavilan. Known for his great right hand, Williams was a proven fighter in every sense of the word. Williams had been champion since April of 1945, and he was making his 5th defense. And on the night of July 12, 1948, Ike was a significant favorite over former 2-time lightweight champion Bojack. Indeed, the Shibe Park Arena in Philadelphia was around half full on the night, so convinced were the knowledgeable fans that Jack was no real match for Williams. Jack, hailing from Waynesboro in Georgia, was only 27 years old, but he was an old 27. Wars with the likes of Freddie Archer, Fritzy Zivic, Henry Armstrong, Bob Montgomery, Sammy Engat, and Tony Gennaro had taken their toll on Jack, and he had been beaten by some common opponents whom Williams had defeated handily. World lightweight champion from December of 1942 to May of 1943, and again from November of 1943 to March of the following year, Jack had not made the 135-pound limit in a number of years, come the time of his challenge against Williams. He had been out of the lightweight division for a while. BBO Sports TV in the building. Looking at some classics today, BBO. Right now, Ike Williams versus Bojack, 1948. Salute, BBO. Coming up tonight at 8. All right. From the Sports Talk Network, too. Yeah, 1948, Ike Williams versus Bojack. And Bojack hadn't fought at lightweight for a few years. So it was kind of like weight drain coming in. Okay. Appreciate you, BBO. The myth and the legend. Wow. That's high praise from BBO Sports TV, of the founder of the Sports Talk Network. Okay. Now, intensely hard earned and worked for. 73 wins, 13 losses, 4 draw record, with Jack having been stopped just once in his career. This, he stopped by Marty Gennaro when he suffered a gruesome knee injury that forced the TKO. And Jack later stated that the hole in his busted knee was big enough for him to put his fist into it, right? And the former ruler was known to be past his best by the fight with Williams. But against the sharp, deadly Williams, Jack managed to make a fight of it, for a while anyway. Jack, a veritable hurricane in his prime, where he would regularly sling out a hellish amount of leather. His aggressive swinging style, something fans loved him for, had some success in the early rounds. Jabbing Williams and forcing a defending champ on the back foot, Jack was also getting in close and doing some damage with his hooks and uppercuts to Williams' body. Williams fired back, made zero mistakes, and the action was fierce. Today, fight fans would be in a real lather if we saw such action as they were going at it in 1948 in this fight. Jack hurt Williams in the second round, and the war continued in the third. But by the fourth round, Jack, as expected, began to fade. Ike was now catching Bo as he came in. The champion's shot still full of venom, while the challenger's punches had lost their sting. Yeah, Bojack was fading by the fourth round, because I told you he hadn't made lightweight in a while, and he came in weight drained, and by the fourth round he was damn near done. But he never gave up. His enormous heart making such a thing impossible. But he was taking a world of punishment. He was stunned badly at the end of the fifth round, left sagging as he made it back to his corner, struggled back to his corner. Round 6 and the stoppage performed by the referee, Charlie Daggett, was terrifying, disgraceful. This referee let this go on way too long. The way this fight ended, the referee would have been charged with manslaughter today or something, assault or something. Now Jack, exhausted and done, was an easy target. And Williams, as ruthless as all fighters had to be back in the day, took advantage. Firing off crisp, zinging shots with both hands, Williams was landing at will on his defenseless target. Should have been stopped then. The vicious salvo was capped off by two nasty left hands to the head. The shots sending Jack reeling into the ropes. Stuck there, upright. God only knows how Jack stayed up. Going for the finish, Williams let loose with a torrent of blows, all of them landing. Jack's head being violently slammed all over the place, back and forth like a rag doll. Jack staggered into a corner, and Williams continued working, his punches blasting into a finished fighter who was now held up only by the ropes. With both of his arms hanging down uselessly, Jack took one of the worst beatings ever captured on film. Williams even temporarily stopped punching, turned to the referee, and pleaded with him to stop the fight. Incredibly, the referee signaled Williams to continue, right? Continue hitting his almost comatose opponent. Told you today, this referee would have been charged with something. Finally, after what had now been something like 30 unanswered punches, Daggett, the referee at last, jumped in and saved Jack from taking more punishment. The referee must didn't like Bojack or something. In all honesty, this referee would have been hauled before a court of law if he put in a performance anywhere close to as disgraceful today. Okay? Would have been charged with something. Back in 1948, even seen it all, hardcore fight fans were left feeling sick and shaking their heads at the referee's performance, inability or refusal to stop the fight when he should have done so. Clearly should have stopped that way back then, but he let it go. The footage of this is on YouTube if anybody want to check this out. If you got the stomach for it, that is. Now Jack, quite astonishingly, fought on after this fight, not retiring for 7 more years. And Jack would fight Williams 3 more times, all in non-title fights, with Jack managing to get a draw in one of them. Right. He finally retired after being stopped by Williams in the fourth fight, August 1955. His ring earnings all gone. Jack shined shoes in his retirement years, as he had done as a young boy before he became a boxer. Ike Williams also retired after the final fight with Bojack. Williams finished with a record of 128 wins, 24 losses, 4 draws, 61 knockouts. Williams died in September 1994, age 71. Bojack's final record was 91 wins, 24 losses, 5 draws, 44 knockouts. And Bojack died in February 2000, age 78. Okay? Yeah, we got a fight from every decade. 1920s to 2020s, last century. Okay? Let's go to the 50s. 1950s. We got the Big Bear. The Big Bear. There he is. Sonny Liston versus Cleveland Williams. Talk about two of them. The both of them fight. One was April 15th, 1959. The rematch was March 21st, 1960. Two classic wars. Sonny Liston, Cleveland Williams. The Big Bear. Ali turned him into the Little Bear. Twice. But the second one was very suspicious. Ali didn't hit that man that hard for him to go down and be knocked out. But the Big Bear didn't get up. Hey, he got his bag. So, But yeah, Sonny Liston, Cleveland Williams. They had two fights, two incredible wars. Let's talk about it. Don't forget tomorrow is a special on the fight of the century. Because remember, the 55th anniversary is Sunday, March 8th. March 8th, 1971 was the original fight. It's the 55th anniversary of it. But let's talk about Sonny Liston. The Sonny Liston, Cleveland Williams wars. They had two incredible wars between these two. Now, no one knows for sure when heavyweight king Charles Sonny Liston was born. Therefore, we don't know how old Liston was when he was at his absolute peak. But there's one fight that stands out as the peak performance of Liston's entire career. A fight that saw Liston show some truly ferocious punching prowess. A rock of a chin, great speed of hand, superb accuracy, and a truly unquenchable thirst for battle. This primed and peak performance came in March of 1960 as Liston, then officially aged 30 or 32, depending on which official records you go by. Really, there being no such thing as an official record of Sonny's birth in existence. He met fellow monster puncher, the equally carved from granite Cleveland Williams. It's mind-boggling to think how these two superb and avoided fighting machines were matched together twice inside a year. Today, both men with good connections and even better protection, as Muhammad Ali might say, would have been kept apart, at least until one of them won a world title, as both would undoubtedly do today. Didn't he have a title? These two monsters was in there together. But Liston and Williams fought in a different time, a far tougher time. And so they went to war, first in April of 1959, and then again in March of the following year. Williams, who was born in 1933, was 47-3 at the time, of his return rumble with Liston. The 3 losses coming against Sylvester Jones on points in 1953, Bob Satterfield by knockout in 1954, and to Liston in 1959. Williams enjoyed a 1-inch height advantage over Sonny, while Sonny had the edge in reach at 84 inches to 80 inches over Cleveland. In their first encounter, which was held at Miami Beach, with Liston then being 27-1, the loss coming on points to Marty Marshall in 1954, later avenged. And the crowd had been treated to a quite magnificent and highly entertaining 3-round slugfest. Williams had success early, hitting and hurting a slow-starting Liston, bloodying the older man's nose. But Liston, a fighter with the single best poker face imaginable, never let on if he was in fact hurt. Liston poured it on towards the end of round 2, and then, sensing his man was hurt, decked Williams twice to get the stoppage in the third. It was a great win for Liston, a man who, like Williams, had real trouble finding quality opposition willing to face him. Okay? Couldn't find a fighter that would fight him. 3 fights, 3 wins, and 11 second time. The return fight took place in Houston, Texas, and another violent affair unfolded. A fairly even opening round went by, but no one was expecting the action to last too long, and it didn't. A great second round saw both men land with power punches, but once again, Liston would not be denied. Sonny had to take a fierce left hook from Williams, however, along with a burst of hurtful follow-up blows, which had him stuck in a corner before retaliating with blistering shots of his own. Then, after 3 consecutive lefts from Williams, Liston landed a cracking overhand right, followed by another right hand that landed flush, and then a perfect left hook to the jaw that dropped his man heavily. Showing great bravery, the badly battered Williams got up at 8, only to be met by a ferocious Liston, who was coming to finish him off. With the courageous Williams stuck in the same corner that he had just had Liston in. Sonny teed off on his wounded target. Blow after blow landed until Williams slid down the ropes to the floor. He was grimacing in pain as he did so. But somehow, in a truly amazing display of guts, Williams pulled himself back to his feet once more. But the referee had seen enough, and he stopped Liston in his tracks, who was coming to finish it off. Liston had looked absolutely awesome, as near the unbeatable as anyone could imagine a fighter to look. Indeed, this was the peak Sonny Liston, the most terrifying, the fastest, hardest hitting, and just plain best heavyweight on the planet at the time. Sonny Liston. Okay. Then we got another one from the 50s too. The 50s was such a great decade for fighting. We got 2. We got Floyd Patterson versus Archie Moore, November 30th, 1956. The youngest or oldest king. Yeah, this fight was going to make history either way, because if Floyd Patterson won, he would be the youngest ever heavyweight champion. And if Archie Moore won, he would be the oldest ever heavyweight champion at that point. And although Mike Tyson is the youngest fighter to ever hold a heavyweight champion, Floyd Patterson is still the youngest ever undisputed heavyweight champion. Now, Mike Tyson did get undisputed, but he was older than 21, which Floyd was when he was undisputed. Mike was 3-belt undisputed at the end of the 80s, IBF, WBO, WBC, WBA. but Floyd was 21. Mike was past 21 at that point. So Floyd Patterson is still the youngest undisputed heavyweight champion. Mike is the youngest to ever hold a heavyweight title because he had one belt when he beat Trevor Berbick. Okay? Mike, the youngest ever heavyweight champion. Floyd Patterson is the youngest ever undisputed heavyweight champion. Okay, let's talk about the fight. Floyd Patterson and Archie Moore. Again, November 30th, 1956. Okay? November 30th, 1956. All right. Floyd Patterson knocked out Archie Moore to become the youngest ever heavyweight king and still the youngest ever undisputed heavyweight champion. Floyd Patterson. Mike just had part of it at age 20. Not undisputed. Yep, this was 1956. 70 years ago. Okay. 70 years ago in Chicago, 21-year-old Floyd Patterson and his blazing fists made boxing history. With the retirement of the beloved Rocky Marciano, the richest prize in sports was up for grabs, and the two top contenders, Patterson and ageless Archie Moore, fought for it. How old was Archie? Officially, he was 42. Some said 39, with Moore coming out with a great quip. I've given it a lot of thought and have decided I must have been 3 when I was born. That's what Archie said. He said he must have been 3 years old when he was born. Okay? Now, times sure have changed, and the weights of the two men show this in quite startling fashion. Moore weighed in at 188 pounds for this fight, while Patterson was even lighter at 182. Today's giants weigh, as we know, upwards of 260 to 270. Still, the Patterson-Moore fight was as legit as it got, and the winner would be the new heavyweight king. Moore, likely due to his enormous edge and experience, was a close betting favorite. Also, Patterson had injured his right hand in his June 1955 fight with Tommy Hurricane Jackson, and the bookies added this in as a factor when compiling the numbers and making Moore the favorite. Okay? It was a one-sided fight, but the underdog was the man dominating. Moore, an astonishing 160 wins, 20 losses, and 8 draws. He had 188 fights at that point. He was unable to get anything going. His reflexes and style not able to cope with Patterson's speed and his constant movement. Patterson, who came into the fight 30 wins, 1 loss, the one loss coming by decision in 1954 to Joey Maxson. Patterson struck in the 4th round when he had a bleeding Moore looking unsteady. Then in the 5th round, Floyd crashed home with a swift left hook to the head, and down went the old mongoose. Now Moore got up, but he was soon down again, this time for the count, by a right hand to the head that left him on one knee, unable to rise. Afterwards, Moore was disgusted by his own performance. I've lost many fights, but never did I lose one in such a sorry fashion, Archie later said when recalling the Patterson defeat. New heavyweight king, Floyd Patterson, with the wise and paranoid Cus D'Amato looking out for him, went on to reign for 2.5 years before he fell foul of Ingemar Johansson and his bingo punch in the summer of 1959. But after that massive upset loss, Patterson made yet more boxing history, this by becoming the very first two-time heavyweight champion. Floyd returning the knockout favor to Ingo the following June. Floyd became the first two-time champion. Moore went back to defending his light heavyweight crown, and in late 1958, proving he was far from finished, Archie gave the world an epic knockout-filled battle with Yvonne Durrell. Floyd Patterson and Archie Moore are today recognized as true greats, and they both sit in the International Boxing Hall of Fame. Floyd Patterson and Archie Moore. Classic fights today. Keep rolling. (1960s). Muhammad Ali versus Ernie Terrell, February 6, 1967. What's my name? Okay. What's my name? Ali versus Terrell. Let's get that going. Let's see. Let me see. Excuse me for a minute. Yes. I'm thinking I'm not on the air. Okay. I don't know. Let's continue. Anyway, Muhammad Ali versus Ernie Terrell. What's my name? 1967. Okay. 59 years ago. 59 years ago, the world saw Muhammad Ali at both his dazzling best and his most cruel and punishing. The words, "What's my name?" ring clearly still in the ears of fight fans who are old enough to have watched Ali's fight with Ernie Terrell. After witnessing what Ali did to the game but outclassed Terrell, many boxing writers of the day laid into the world heavyweight champion, calling him a bully, a man who lacked sportsmanship in one hugely insulting way. Terrell, a tall fighter with a fine left jab, truly felt he would beat the man he continued to call Cassius Clay. Ali considered that his slave name. Now, during the build-up to the fight, Terrell so angered Ali, the heavyweight champion, slapped Terrell hard in the face, ordering him to call me by my name, Muhammad Ali. "You will address me in the ring if you don't do it now," Ali bellowed to his challenger. Terrell, coming into the fight, 39 wins, 4 losses, and probably at his own peak at age 28, never did call Ali by that name. And he tried as best as he could in the fight. But almost from the very beginning, that Terrell, like every other heavyweight of the day, had nowhere near enough speed to be able to deal with Ali. But Ali wasn't content with merely outclassing Ernie. He wanted to humiliate him for the name slur. Ali dropped his hands and left them dangling at his sides for long periods during the fight. And he also lashed out with stinging blows. At other times, while literally daring Terrell to hit him, Ali bellowed out, "What's my name?" Terrell never uttered a word in reply, later claiming he never even heard anything that Ali was saying to him. "I was concentrating on surviving," Terrell said. Terrell was game, but he was falling hopelessly behind on the judges' scorecards. Also of a serious concern for the Octopus, as Ali dubbed his latest challenger, was the damage Ali had inflicted on his left eye. Swelling up and closing fast, Ernie's eye had a fractured bone underneath it, and it was later revealed how Terrell had a damaged retina. Later, Terrell claimed Ali had purposely rubbed his eye along the top rope as the two had been in a clinch along the ropes. Ali vehemently denied this claim. "I'm a clean fighter," he insisted. But Terrell, who passed away in December 2014, always insisted he would have won the fight had his eye not been so horrifically damaged. Due to a combination of Terrell's bravery and Ali's willingness to prolong the beating of his overmatched adversary, the fight dragged on for all 15 rounds. Maybe Ali could have closed the show and got the stoppage. Who knows for sure? In any case, Ali won by a lopsided margin on each of the three judges' cards by a whopping 148 to 133 score in the case of one judge. However, Ali was given no rave reviews by the experts after the fight. Instead, almost every single writer chose to focus on the mean-spirited side of Ali's nature. Condemned as a cruel bully, just as he was 2 years ago when he brutalized and tormented former champion Floyd Patterson, another fighter who insisted on calling Ali Clay. Ali was all but hated by the media. No one could deny his boxing brilliance, but the champion's taunting and currying of an opponent was seen as being in terribly bad taste. For sure, the Ali of the late 1960s was a million miles from the beloved global hero he would become in the mid-70s and still is today, years after his death. At the time of this fight, though, 28-0, and with seemingly no one out there capable of defeating him, Ali may have been disliked at home, but he was popular in Europe and in other places. But after just one more fight, a stoppage win over Lazar Farley that March, Ali fell foul of the United States government, stripped of his title and his passport for refusing to be inducted into the armed forces. Ali was made redundant, unable to fight for a living. The U.S. government had done what no fighter was even close to doing. Ali was a beaten man at that point. All right. You're just looking at some classics today. Al Booger. What's up, Al Booger? Yeah, we're looking at a classic fight from every decade in the past century, 1920s to the 2020s. Let's go into the 80s now. Okay? No, we got another one from the 70s, a good one. Joe Frazier versus Jerry Quarry, June 23rd, 1969. And this was 1969's Fight of the Year. 1969's Fight of the Year. Smoking Joe Frazier versus Jerry Quarry. Classic fights today. How's everybody? Don't forget tomorrow, big special Fight of the Century. Because Sunday, March 8th is the 55th year anniversary. March 8th, 1971. Had a brain lock momentarily. 71, 2026. 55 years, right? 55th anniversary, and we're going to look at it tomorrow. But right now, Joe Frazier versus Jerry Quarry. Looking at some classic fights. Okay, let's look at Smoking Joe and Jerry. Here they are. Of course, Smoking Joe on the left, Jerry on the right. This was 1969's Fight of the Year for that year. Joe Frazier slugfest with Jerry Quarry. The Joe Frazier's greatest night in the ring, by far, the distinction goes to the Philly legend's epic win over arch rival Muhammad Ali in the March 1971 Fight of the Century. And Smoking Joe had plenty of other special nights, including his knockout wins over Jimmy Ellis, Buster Mathis, and Bob Foster, and also his stoppage win over George Chuvalo. But when it comes to the most thrilling slugfest Smoking Joe ever engaged in, it could well be that his June 1969 win over the agonizingly tough and proud Jerry Quarry deserves the unofficial award. This fight, that won the Ring Magazine Fight of the Year trophy that year, is stunningly brutal and crammed full of action. Frazier, approaching his prime, his tools having been sharpened by the great Yank Durham, was 25 years old, and it was perfect at 23-0. Smoking Joe was also the New York State Athletic Commission heavyweight champion, with him still some months away from being recognized by all as the man at heavyweight. Quarry was a year younger, and he was an already somewhat battle-hardened 31 wins, 2 losses, 4 draws coming in. The two rumbled inside a packed Madison Square Garden, and what a rumble it was. This fight is also on YouTube if you want to watch it. Frazier Quarry, 1969 Fight of the Year. Now Quarry, who had good, often underrated counterpunching skills, didn't look to see how he could fire back after making Frazier miss with a shot. Not off the bat anyway. No. Instead, in a surprising move to even unsettle Smoking Joe a touch, Quarry marched right to Frazier and began to trade blows with him toe to toe. In hindsight, this was borderline suicidal. But Quarry had an enormous heart, and he felt he'd be able to take Joe's heart in a heated battle. And Quarry had some success, just not enough of it. He had a good idea though, because Smoking Joe was a slow starter. I don't think Joe Frazier ever won a first round in his career. Now Quarry had fast hands, and it appeared to many to win the opening 2 sessions. But as we all know today, Frazier was always something of a slow starter. And by rounds 3 and 4, it was a case of Joe starting to smoke. Quarry slowed down, and Frazier made it his fight. Frazier, tank-like, and seeming to enjoy the fight. A young George Foreman boxed his pro debut on the undercard of this fight. He would remark often in later years how Smoking Joe would make a face during the Quarry fight, as though he really was enjoying getting hit. Foreman then knew Joe had no discernible weaknesses as a fighter, and Joe indeed was loving the zest of combat. Smoking Joe was loving it. Frazier would not let Quarry breathe, and now Jerry was simply trying to keep Joe off him. Frazier was getting stronger as the fight went on, with the opposite being witnessed from Quarry. Then, in round 7, Quarry was bleeding badly from a cut to his right eye, with the eye also swelling up, impeding his vision. The swelling had actually started to bother Quarry in the 4th round, and the writing was on the wall, even if Jerry couldn't see it too clearly himself. Frazier was ready to come out to administer some more hurt in round 8, but the ringside doctor, upon examining Quarry's badly injured eye, stopped the fight. Now Quarry, ever the warrior, was fuming, wanted to continue. Looking back all these years later, this fight really is one that, though it does enjoy continued fan attention from perhaps older boxing fans, deserves to be far more celebrated than it is. The opening round gives the classic Hagler-Hearns round 1 a run for its money. At the time of the stoppage, Frazier was ahead on all cards. 6 rounds to 1, 5 rounds to 1 with 1 even, and 6 to 1. And the doctor said, "I stopped it to prevent a slaughter." Forget how bad his eye was. The doctor said he stopped it to prevent a slaughter. Frazier and Quarry would fight again, this in June of 1974, at the same location, Madison Square Garden. This time, former heavyweight champ Frazier scored a stoppage in the 5th round. And the legendary Joe Louis, who was Frazier's idol, was the referee for the second fight. All right, Frazier Quarry. Now we go to the 1980s. We got a fight from every decade that we're going to get them into from the past century. Okay? No, we go to the 70s. Big George Foreman versus Big Ron Lyle. These were two big, huge heavyweight sluggers here. And man, this is also fight of the year. And it involved the round of the year, rounds 4 or 5. We're going to find out in a minute. Big George Foreman versus Big Ron Lyle. These two were throwing bombs, man. Both went down several times, but both got up. Except Lyle didn't get up the last time. Yeah. Both of them had great chins. Yep. Two of those 70s heavyweights. George Foreman versus Ron Lyle. Okay, let's talk about this one. Classic fights today. Classics. George Foreman versus Ron Lyle. June 24th, 1976. A celebration of a slugfest. A celebration of a slugfest. Okay? This is the 50th anniversary of one of the most incredible heavyweight fights ever seen. Rewind to January of 1976, with Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas the venue, and two juggernauts collided in mid-ring. This as they fought, as the legendary commentator Albert Cosell called it on air, in a style and approach that was utterly without boxing skill. 27-year-old George Foreman was still in his prime, but he was mentally wounded due to what had happened to him in Zaire a few years earlier, when the incomparable Muhammad Ali shocked the world in taking Foreman's cloak of invincibility away. Lyle, who had also fought Ali in the world title in 1975, was older at age 34. Yet, the former convict had started his boxing career late, and he was still relatively fresh and ambitious. Both men could hit extremely hard, this with ease of hand, and neither man was what could be referred to as reluctant to let the leather fly for Bandon on this night. Many fans, whatever their age, are very familiar with this fight. It is simply epic. The two sluggers, leaving their defensive skills at home, had it seemed made a non-verbal pact to meet in the middle of the ring and just punch it out. And this is exactly what they did. Exactly what they did. It wasn't long at all before the crowd was on its feet, with plenty of fans slinging out punches themselves in the audience. It was that kind of fight. Had the fans in the audience shadow boxing and stuff. Even Albert Cosell would lose it at times doing the dizzying, I'll hit you, you hit me action. It must have been a tough job for on-the-spot reporters to take down the action accurately, as they either scribbled on a notepad or bellowed into a tape recorder. Twice, Big George hit the mat, with the equally big Ron Lyle doing the same. And then there was the red-hot, almost agonizing to watch, full-blooded trading. Both men tested the chin, the heart, the sheer desire of the other man. Foreman would later say, many times and without exaggeration, that he was willing to die in the fight that night. The list of excuses he had come up with feebly, and he threw it away. The list of excuses he had come up with too feebly, and he knew it, explained away his unthinkable loss to Ali, had long since bugged Foreman, more so than it had bothered any of his critics. An honest-to-goodness fighter, Foreman knew the quick count claims he made were baloney, as did George know his water had not really been poisoned against Ali. Now Foreman wanted to prove to himself in this fight how far he would go in order to win when it wasn't going his way. In short, Foreman knew he could have gotten up in the 8th round against Ali, but he didn't. He was instead counted out as he waited for his corner to tell him to jump up. In the Ron Lyle fight, his first fight after Ali, save for a bizarre exhibition where the former champ took on 5 men in 1 hour. But in this fight against Lyle, Foreman was listening to nobody but his inner voice and pride. So Lyle, hungry for another title shot, drew first blood, which he did when he cracked Foreman with a bomb of an overhand right in the opening seconds of the first round. Now, Foreman paid Lyle back in the following round, which was, due to a timekeeping screw-up, lasted only 2 minutes. The second round lasted only 2 minutes. Already, the fight had proven memorable. Things would soon reach crazy proportions. The third round was action-packed, with Foreman getting the better of it. The fourth round was an explosion. Lyle, growling as he bit down on his mouthpiece, blasted Foreman with a right left to the head, and down went Big George. Hurt bad, Foreman nevertheless got back up quickly, and he soon returned fire. The two traded in the ring center before Foreman sent Lyle crashing with a right hand of his own. Yeah, the fourth round was round of the year, this one. Lyle got up, and after taking some serious hurt, the warrior who almost died in prison after being stabbed came back. And how he came back. This isn't artistic, but it is sluggy, Cosell informed his ABC audience. Lyle, who had been stuck on the ropes just seconds earlier, landed a scorching left hook, and down went Big George again. The bell came just as Foreman peeled himself up from his face-first position on the canvas. Foreman, on rubbery legs, half staggered back to his corner. And as an almost equally arm-weary and tired Lyle briefly hovered before going back to his corner. And then round 5 was brutal and epic. Lyle, using whatever strength he had left, caught Foreman with another left-hand wallop. And again, Big George's legs were spongy. But Foreman, his lip bleeding, reached down deep, his attitude one of utter refusal to give in, with no desire, and try and formulate any excuses in his mind, had he even been able to think clearly, that is. And having been able to stay up from Lyle's latest bombardment, Foreman returned fully to his no-mercy bloody 5th Street fighting days. Foreman bullied Lyle into a corner, and he let loose with too many punches to be able to count, all of them nasty, hurtful shots. With no sign of the referee coming to the stricken Lyle's aid, Foreman was permitted to bang away. Finally, with cries of "Stop it, stop it," coming from the audience, Lyle slowly slid to the canvas, with it now being his turn to land on his face. Incredibly, Lyle tried on pure instinct to get up one more time, But no, he was done. It was over. The most two-sided, action-crammed heavyweight slugfest had gone into the history book. And so many books would have chapters in them that described and celebrated the savage beauty this fight, war, street fight thrilled millions with. Foreman and Lyle are sadly no longer with us, but this fight will live forever. Yeah. Foreman and Lyle. Yep, and it's on YouTube. Here's an interesting little bit from former two-time heavyweight champ Tim Witherspoon, who watched the fight live on TV as a youngster. Okay, I guess he was an amateur boxer then. Tim Witherspoon watched it with his family. This is what he said about it. The George Foreman-Ron Lyle fight was a real classic, Tim said some years after the fight. Have you seen it? We watched it live on the TV at home, and we were all going crazy. And then my little sister turned the TV over. My brother went crazy. As he got up, he hit his head on the TV and needed stitches. That was one crazy night. They was watching a fight, and little sister turned the TV over. Wow. And his brother jumped up and hit his head on the TV and needed stitches. Tim Witherspoon. He probably was an amateur at that time. The drunk Irishman in the building. Yeah, that wasn't it, Al Booker? Foreman and Lyle. Wow. I watched that every now and then because that was fight of the year for 1976 too. And round 4 was round of the year. They was throwing bombs. And wasn't no defense, wasn't no boxing. They just standing there throwing bombs. I hit you, you hit me. That was good and crazy. Okay, let's get another classic fight in. Okay. The 80s. We have Marvelous Marvin Hagler versus John the Beast Mugabe. The Marvelous One versus the Beast. March 10th, 1986. Marvin Hagler versus the Beast. But salute, drunk Irishman. There you go. Good to see you today. We're just looking at some classic fights today. That's all. A salute to you. And tomorrow, we're going to look at the fight of the century. It happened. Mm-hmm. Yep. And we're going to talk about not this fight. During the Vietnam War was going on then, hero. Frazier was the war people's hero, but Frazier just wanted to fight, but he supported the war, so he was put into that role. Yep. Tomorrow is Friday, right? Yeah. These days go by so fast. Okay, but Marvelous Marvin Hagler versus John the Beast Mugabe now. That was another good one. I think the Beast, we'll find out in a minute, but I don't think anybody here went the distance with him at that point. We got in there with Hagler. But that was Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Okay. Yeah. That was Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Okay. Now this was again March 10th, 1986. The Marvelous One versus the Beast. Now, never let it be said that the great, indeed, the marvelous Marvin Hagler ever swerved the challenge. Okay? Rewind to 40 years ago, and there was a beast on the rise. A beast who had been piling up the knockout wins along with the prone bodies. And this beast wanted to tear into the reigning middleweight king. Hagler was more than happy to get in there and tame the beast. Hagler said, "You ain't said nothing but a word, beast." Okay? John Mugabe of Uganda, who had boxed at both 154 and 160 pounds, smashed and thrashed his way to a 25-0 record, 25 knockouts coming into that fight. When a guy named Bill Bradley took his turn to be brutalized by the 26-year-old of whom the late great Knockout magazine asked on its recent cover, John the Beast Mugabe, does he have any weaknesses? In terms of punching ability, no. Mugabe had no weaknesses. But then, neither did middleweight boss Hagler. With both punching ability, sheer toughness, boxing skill, desire, stamina, in fact, just about everything a great fighter needs having, been shown time and again by the Southpaw, who had ruled the division since 1980 at that point. Yep, 1980, Hagler had been the king. Now, Mugabe was vowing to eat Hagler up, to take him out, to take what was his. Hagler was now 31 years old, and he might have been slowing down, at least a little. And if so, it was perhaps a result of the epic, savage, and punishing war Hagler had engaged in with Thomas Hearns the previous year, with neither legend fighting again afterwards for some 11 months. Because Hagler had also been in there with Duran a few years before that. Yet him and Hearns took almost a year off after their fight. But Hagler was as determined as ever, and he did some vowing of his own going into the fight with Mugabe. Hagler said he would destruct and destroy once again. Now the fight took place on March 10th of 1986, 50 years ago. 40 years ago. The venue was Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas, Nevada. Now Thomas Hearns fought on the undercard. He beat James Schuler inside one round on the undercard of the Beast. That was the co-main for Hagler and the Beast. Now Hagler stepped into the ring with a hard-forged 61 wins, 2 losses, 51 knockouts. And he was in zero mood to give up his beloved crown, the one he had slaved to get his hands on. Damn near took an act of Congress. Remember? So lawmakers had to step in to get Hagler his shot. Right? Now the fight proved memorable as well as brutal. Both men went to a place we mere mortals could scarcely imagine. Mugabe's wrecking power had an effect on the rock-chin Hagler, the challenger's body work proving to be his best weapon during the battle. Hagler blew the opening round by coming out orthodox, and he soon switched to his customary stance. He did the same thing in his next fight against Sugar Ray, came out orthodox. Now getting to work with his jab, Hagler also landed some damaging power punches. Hagler having an especially dominant 6th round, but Mugabe's chin was thus far holding up. Mugabe was for real. Hagler, despite catching Mugabe flush way more than once, was unable to put him down, unable to get rid of the beast. The two warriors traded in the later rounds, with Hagler, who was penalized a point for a low blow, sporting a swollen right eye. But Hagler was slowly getting on top, and Mugabe knew it. The beast, who did have a good 9th and 10th rounds, was being broken down bit by bit, piece by piece. The Marvelous One was breaking them down bit by bit, piece by piece. In round 11, Hagler poured it on, His left hook barely hurting Mugabe, with Hagler's follow-up rights sending the beast down. First time in his career, the beast was down. The beast was knocked out. He was instead exhausted. The beast was not knocked out. He was instead exhausted. He had been beaten down as well as beaten up. Mugabe had nothing left, and he set out the count. Didn't get back up. Hagler had won one of the toughest ever fights, and one man who sat at ringside knew it. Ray Charles Leonard called Hagler out soon after this fight, right? For now, though, Hagler was still the best fighter in the world, pound for pound. Hagler had seen off the beast, and he was still marvelous. Seen off the beast, he was still marvelous. Sugar Ray thought Hagler had lost a step or two, but that was the beast Mugabe, right? Prime Hagler would have had trouble with the beast. The beast came in 26-0, 26 knockouts. Or was it 25-0, 25 knockouts? It was 20-something over 20-something knockouts. So, no, Hagler had lost no step. He was just sitting there with the beast, right? We had a couple, well, we're not going to get them in. We had for the 90s, but we had another one for that. We had Roberto Duran versus Iran Barkley. That great fight. Had to get him in another day. We had, for the 90s, we had a great one for the 90s. We had James Lights Out Tony versus Michael Second to None. Okay? And we had Oscar De La Hoya versus Manny Pacquiao. And Lennox Lewis versus Vitaly Klitschko. And the final one was going to be Terrence Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez, January 13th, 2025. But hey, hope everybody enjoyed it, though. Everybody always come at the end of the show. Why? Start at 2, folks. Everybody show up at like 3:45 every day. But that's all good, though. But I hope everybody enjoyed the show. But don't get here early tomorrow because it's the fight of the century. Smoking Joe Frazier defending his title against Muhammad Ali. And remember, they both had legitimate claims because Ali wasn't beaten in the ring. They stripped him. But it wasn't Joe Frazier's fault that he had won the title in the middle of the ring. Literally, you know how Smoking Joe fight. And then they settled it in the ring. And we're going to talk about that tomorrow. The fight round by round and all the other stuff. The political atmosphere, the era, the racial stuff that was going on in the United States at that time. And everything about the fight. Fight of the century. That was the second one because the first fight of the century was Jack Johnson and James Jeffries. No. James Jeffries, yeah. They brought James Jeffries out of retirement to get their belt back because Jack Johnson was the first black heavyweight champion. But James Jeffries had been in retirement, and James Jeffries was a bad man in his prime, but he had been retired for like 6 years. And he had to lose 100 pounds to get ready for the fight, but he tried. He wasn't going to do it, but they threw all this money at him, so he said, I can't make this kind of money farming. But yeah, Jack Johnson savaged him. Yeah, James should have never even been in there. That was the first fight of the century, but Ali and Frazier was the second one. Yep. Tomorrow. And this is the first Friday of the month. We're supposed to do an active fighter. But I asked Miss Cass, I said, now the anniversary of the fight of the century is Sunday. Should I do the show on it before on Friday or before on Monday? She said it would be best to do it Friday before the anniversary. So, yeah. Maybe we'll do our active fighter on Monday. It was going to be Boots, Jerron Boots Ennis. Yeah, we'll do that Monday. Mm-hmm. But tomorrow is definitely going to be the fight of the day. I mean, the fight of the century. We're going to have a fight of the day too, though. Gotta hit a fight of the day. Yeah. But everybody have a great afternoon. I think Just Do Boxing is next. BBO Sports TV at 8 p.m. tonight. Ernie Boxing at 9. Big lineup coming up in these YouTube streets of boxing talk. All these people are big time, knowledgeable boxing people. BBO has some fire interviews on there. Can't get over that. Pulled up there when they had Stitch Duran, Jacob Stitch Duran on there. It's like, what? I had to go out and come back in. Damn. This man is a legend. And he was in the corner of Hall of Famers. Is Jacob, I think is Stitch in the Hall of Fame yet? I think he might be, but he will be. He's still a little active. But people in that capacity, like commentators and people like trainers, they can get in there before their careers even retire. They only make boxers wait till they retire. Other people can still be actively in the sport, trainers and commentators and writers and stuff, and be in the Hall of Fame. Yeah, but yeah, BBO tonight at 8. Okay, but I appreciate everybody. The Drunk Irishman, Al Booger, BBO Sports TV, Mike Mazik, Mike Rim, and Miss Cass. Okay, tomorrow, the fight of the century. It's going to be good too. Promise. Been working on it all week. Adjusting is next. Everybody have a great afternoon, okay? But if it's Monday through Friday, 2 p.m., it's the Boxtorian bringing you all that boxing history. Catch y'all tomorrow.